Chapter 6 might actually be the final chapter of the series, and because of that, fans are asking one huge question. When is Chapter 6 going to release? Today, we're going to break that down, and at the end of this video, I'll also share some important developer updates. So let's start with the release window. Is Chapter 6 closer than we think, or is it still far away? Now, here's the interesting part. Chapter 3 and Chapter 4 both released on January 30th, but Chapter 5 released on February 18th. That's only an 18-day difference compared to the usual late January release pattern, so naturally most people are assuming Chapter 6 will follow a similar timeline. Maybe late January, maybe mid-February again. That makes sense on the surface. But here's where things get complicated. As I said earlier, there's a very high chance that Chapter 6 will be the final chapter of the series. That means it would be the ending of the entire story. And when a studio knows they're closing a series, they usually go all in. Bigger scale, more polish, more emotional payoff. So some fans believe they might take extra time to develop it, and that's fair. But let's be honest for a second. Mob Entertainment has been extremely consistent with their release timing. They've delivered chapters within a similar yearly window. And look at Chapter 5. It launched with very few technical issues. It had strong performance, and it received mostly positive reviews. That tells us something important. Their development pipeline is efficient, and their team is bigger now than it was during Chapter 3. So realistically, I don't think they're going to delay Chapter 6 too far beyond their normal pattern. My prediction? Best case scenario, mid to late February again, possibly even February 18th, matching Chapter 5's date. If they take slightly longer for polish, then early to mid-March is still very realistic. But I don't see this being a massive delay, not unless something unexpected happens. Because if this is the final chapter, they'll want to keep the momentum strong. Now let's talk about some important developer updates. In my previous video, I already shared a lot of huge messages from Isaac, but in the last few hours, he revealed even more details, and some of them completely change how we see certain characters. Let's start with the Doctor. Isaac confirmed something massive. He said that in his original story, the Doctor had been watching the player from the very beginning, controlling every camera, every door, and yes, he was the one who crashed the train at the end of Chapter 2. That means the train crash wasn't random, it was planned. He was manipulating everything from behind the scenes. But that's not all. Isaac also explained how the Doctor's arc was originally supposed to end. At one point, the Doctor would trick the player and send them back to the factory's surface with Yarnaby. From there, the player would fight their way back down, and in the final confrontation, you would destroy the Doctor's massive machine form piece by piece from the inside out, while he begs you to stop, while trying to kill you in a smaller form at the same time. And as he tries to bargain and manipulate you, you realize something. This monster who always acted powerful and superior isn't so powerful once he starts losing, and that would have completed his arc, ending the Doctor's reign for good. That's huge. Now let's talk about something even more interesting. Isaac also clarified something about the toys themselves. He said that in his version of the story, most of the experiments have lived long enough to develop intelligence beyond normal children, but that doesn't make them adults. He still sees them as children forever, and that's important because some of them, like Poppy, literally look like children, which makes everything even darker. But now comes the biggest update of all, the player. A fan asked Isaac directly, when were we going to learn who or what the player is? And his response was very interesting. Originally, he didn't plan to focus on the player's identity at all. The idea was to keep the player anonymous. But as the chapters went on, especially Chapter 3 and Chapter 4, the story started pushing more and more toward revealing the truth. So Isaac realized that not revealing the player's identity would actually be a waste. He planned to reveal it in Chapter 5, but here's the twist. He never shared his identity idea with anyone, which means Mob Entertainment may have completely different plans now. So the original plan was to reveal who we are in Chapter 5, but that didn't happen, which raises one big possibility. Maybe they're saving it for Chapter 6? And if Chapter 6 really is the final chapter, then revealing the player's true identity there would make perfect sense. And then a fan asked something very interesting. Would we have gotten more scenes with Elliot Ludwig and his history in your original vision? Isaac replied that he actually had a lot of Elliot Ludwig content planned for Chapter 5. A lot. It was supposed to reveal major lore that we still don't know. But now, he's not sure if Mob will still use those ideas, which means there's a chance we might see more of Elliot's backstory in the future, but nothing is confirmed. Then someone asked about the prototype. Was he always meant to imitate imitate voices? Or was that something added later during Chapter 3's development? Isaac revealed that the voice mimicking idea came during Chapter 3. But here's the important part. That wasn't supposed to be his only voice. Originally, the prototype was meant to have a main voice, a primary voice he would use most of the time. It just never appeared in Chapter 3 because they hadn't cast anyone. Then someone asked if Chapter 4 stayed close to Isaac's original outline, especially regarding the Doctor. His response was clear. Chapter 4 was very similar to his outline, but Chapter 5? Chapter 5 was almost entirely different. That's huge because it confirms that the story shifted heavily in Chapter 5. Now here's a small but interesting detail. Someone asked about the missing slide name in Chapter 2. You know, the one that was never revealed. Isaac said he probably shouldn't say who it was meant to be, just in case Mob uses it later. So whatever that name is, it might still matter. Then another fan asked the big question, can you tell us which chapter will be the final one? Isaac answered honestly. He said he can't tell us because he doesn't know, which confirms something important. Even he doesn't fully know where Mob is taking the ending now. Then someone brought up Ollie from Chapter 3. Early versions had him named Ace. Was that a different character? Isaac clarified that Ace was just a placeholder name during development, nothing deeper than that, so no hidden lore there. Then someone asked Isaac a question that changes how we see Chapter 3. Were the smiling critters and Catnap ever friends? Dog Day says they fought Catnap when he followed the prototype. All 7 of them lost, fled to the prison, and later Catnap hunted them down like he had a personal score to settle. Isaac replied, at one point, definitely, but by Chapter 3, nope, definitely not. Catnap fed them to a bunch of feral toys, so yes, they were once united, but by Chapter 3, that friendship was completely gone. Now here's the biggest reveal. Someone asked if Ollie, the real Ollie, was always meant to become the prototype. Isaac's answer? Ollie was always the prototype. That was the original plan. He said he would have built it up differently, but Ollie and the prototype were always meant to be the same. And finally, someone asked about bigger body Bron, especially since he kept getting cut from previous chapters. Isaac said it was definitely a cool and memorable moment. Bron finally got his spotlight, but he also agreed that using the creepier eyeless face from the Chapter 1 trailer might have made it even better. And that's pretty much all the major updates for now. A lot of behind-the-scenes information, a lot of original plans, and a lot of changes, which makes Chapter 6 even more unpredictable. I'll see you in the next one.